Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss about the nested loop. So in order to understand the nested loop, we need to keep few things in our minds. Number one, nested loop are the loops that are placed inside another loop. Secondly, the inner loop runs completely for each iterations of the outer loop. And number third, the nested loop are useful for handling multiple things that includes multi-dimensional data, matrix operations, and pattern generations. So for the nested loop, we have both the loops included, the for loop and the while loop. So let's see the syntax of both the loops. So first we have the syntax of the for loop. So we have the word for that turns blue, and we have an outer loop from 1 to n. That is our outer loop. Secondly, we have another loop that is for, that we denoted with j, starting from 1 and ending with m, and this is our inner loop. Next, we have some code to be executed. And finally, we have the end of inner for loop and we have the end of the outer for loop. That is a very simple syntax of a for loop. Next, we have a syntax of the while loop. Okay, for the while loop, we have to initialize our variable. That should be anything. So I is equals to 1, I am choosing. Next, we have the word while that turns blue definitely. Then we have some conditions to be satisfied. Then we have another j is the initialization purpose. Then we have a while and we have another condition to be satisfied. Next, we have the code to be executed. And we have some statement definitely. Then we have the end of the inner while loop. This is our inner while loop. And the first one is our outer while loop. And finally, we have end of the outer while loop. So in order to understand the for loop and the while loop, we are going to consider the two examples, two basic examples. So for the for loop, we are considering the example that we are going to create a chessboard pair pattern. And for the while loop, we are considering the example that we are going to create a right angle, triangle pattern. So these two examples that we are going to consider it in order to understand the for loop and the while loop. So let's proceed to the MATLAB. So yes, this is the interface of the MATLAB. So initially we are going to consider an example of a chessboard pattern in order to understand the for loop, nested for loop. So we are going to choose n is equals to 8. Why? Because the size of the chessboard pattern, that is 8 cross 8. Next, we are going to display, this is an additional, you may write or you may just skip it. It's up to you. So chessboard pattern. So next we are going to use a for loop. Initially I is equals to 1 colon n. Next we have another for loop that is j is equals to 1 colon n. Then we are going to use our if statement, that is mod and I plus j comma 2, that should be equals to 0, and we used it because we need to alternate between x and o. So yes, we need to use f print f, that should be x. Next we have an else, and we need to f print f, that is our, you may use o or you may use 0. So yes, I'm using 0. Then we are going to end our if statement. Then we are going to end our inner for loop. Next we need f print f and backslash n, that is used for move to the next line. And finally, we have the end of the outer for loop. So let's see. Yes. So that's how we are creating our chess. So chessboard pattern. So this is our x dot x, and this is we have basically the 8 rows and the 8 columns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 rows, right? So this is the very simple example of nested for loop, because we have the one for loop and we have the another for loop inside of the one, that is basically the I. So j is the inner for loop and the I is the outer for loop. So for the understanding of the while loop, we are choosing an example of right angled triangle pattern. So yes, for this we are choosing the number of rows, that should be equals to 5, and I, that is equals to 1, that is for the initialization purpose. Then we have the while loop, that I less than equals to rows. Next we have this j, that is equals to 1. This is again for the initialization purpose, and we have the while loop, that is our inner while loop. So j is less than equals to I. So that is basically our inner while loop. Next we have to print. So we are using f print f, and for the construction of the pattern of a right angle triangle, we are using an operator, that is static. So next we have the j is equals to j plus 1, and we are going to end our inner while loop. Then we have to again print backslash n, that is basically move to the next line, or we simply call it new line after each row. So I is equals to I plus 1, and then we are going to end our outer while loop. So yes, we have to choose 5 rows. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rows. So the outer while loop controls the number of rows, and the inner while loop prints static character based on the row numbers. So thank you so much for watching, students, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Take care of yourselves, and Allah Hafiz.